President Choi Min-ho stood in what had once been the Grand Assembly Hall of Nexus Prime Station. Exactly 1 year after President Kim Tae-ho's assassination, he was here to establish a new order for the galaxy. The hall where his predecessor had been murdered was now the center of human power. The station itself had changed. Where alien artwork once decorated the walls, now there were memorials to the human colonies that had been destroyed. The seats where alien delegates used to sit were filled with human officials and representatives from species that had chosen to ally with humanity. Ambassador Jang Mi-young approached the podium where President Kim Tae-ho had given his final speech about peace and cooperation. The irony was not lost on anyone present. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, "I present the President of Earth and Supreme Commander of Human Space, Choi Min-ho." As President Choi walked to the podium, he noticed that the alien delegates who were present looked very different from those who had been here a year ago. Gone were the proud representatives of mighty empires. Instead, there were humble ambassadors from species that had learned to fear human power. 1 year ago, President Choi began, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. "Aliens assassinated our leader in this very room. They thought this would be the beginning of humanity's end. They were wrong." He gestured to the viewing screens that showed images from across the galaxy. Former alien strongholds were now human-controlled worlds. Massive alien fleets had been reduced to debris fields. Proud species that had once commanded hundreds of worlds were now confined to single planets under human supervision. The Vorthak Empire, which once controlled 300 star systems, now exists as a single planet under human protection. Their former Emperor Krex is in prison for the rest of his life. In the audience, former High Chancellor Vex of the hegemony of Zephyria sat in a simple chair instead of the throne he had once occupied. His people's once mighty civilization was now administered by human governors. The hegemony of Zephyria, which prided itself on cold logic and perfect planning, discovered that their calculations were wrong. They failed to account for what humans become when faced with extinction. President Choi paused and looked directly at the representatives of species that had been coerced into joining the war against humanity. "But we are not here today to celebrate revenge," he continued. "We are here to establish a new way for all species to live together, a way that ensures nothing like this can ever happen again." Dr. Park Si-jin, now the head of the Galactic Research Initiative, presented the new technology sharing agreement. Under human leadership, species that proved themselves trustworthy could gain access to advanced technologies. But these technologies included safeguards that prevented them from being used against humans or other peaceful species. Every quantum weapon, every neural enhancement system, every reality manipulation device will have built-in controls, Dr. Park explained. Species that use these technologies responsibly will continue to have access to them. Those that don't will find their systems simply stop working. This was humanity's solution to the problem of technology theft that had contributed to the war. No longer would human innovations be turned into weapons against their creators. Colonel An Jae-sung, his consciousness now so advanced that he existed more as a digital entity than a physical being, had been placed in charge of galactic security. His neural-linked fleet could respond to threats anywhere in the galaxy within hours. "I am no longer entirely human," he admitted during his presentation to the assembly. "The war changed me, as it changed all of us. But I remember what it means to be human. I remember that we value life, even the lives of our enemies." This was demonstrated by humanity's treatment of the defeated alien species. Rather than exterminating them as they had tried to do to humanity, the humans had placed them under protective custody. They were no longer free to make war, but they were allowed to live. The 3 species that planned and initiated the genocide attempt are now protectorates of the Human Galactic Authority, President Choi explained. "They will remain under our supervision until we are satisfied that their cultures have changed enough to ensure this never happens again." Captain Yoon Hye-jin, now Admiral Yoon and head of Galactic Intelligence, had spent months investigating which individual aliens had been responsible for specific atrocities. Her findings had led to the arrest and trial of over 10,000 war criminals. "Justice has been served," she reported to the assembly. Every alien who participated in the murder of human civilians has been held accountable. Some have been executed. Others will spend their lives in prison. All have learned that genocide has consequences. But the trials had also revealed something important. Many individual aliens had refused to participate in the attacks on human civilians, even when ordered to do so by their governments. These aliens were now honored guests at the new Galactic Assembly. "We judge beings by their actions, not by their species," President Choi announced. "Aliens who protected human lives during the war are considered friends of humanity. They have full citizenship rights in our new galactic community." Engineer Nam Ki-young, working with scientists from 12 different species, had created new technologies that benefited everyone. Medical devices that could heal injuries that were once fatal. Energy systems that could power entire worlds without polluting them. Transportation methods that made travel between stars as easy as walking between rooms. But all of this technology came with human oversight. The galaxy had learned that advanced technology in the wrong hands could lead to genocide. Under human leadership that would not be allowed to happen again. Dr. Oh Sang-mi had been working on something even more ambitious than weapons. She had created technology that could terraform dead worlds, turning them into gardens suitable for any form of life. "We are offering this technology to species that demonstrate their commitment to peace," she explained to the assembly. "Rather than fighting over existing worlds, we can create new ones." This was humanity's vision for the galaxy's future. Instead of species competing for limited resources, they would work together to create abundance for everyone. General Woo Hyun-sik had been placed in charge of the memorial projects. On dozens of worlds where human colonies had been destroyed, beautiful memorials now stood. But these memorials were not just about remembering the dead. They were about ensuring that future generations understood the cost of hatred and genocide. Every species in the galaxy will send their children to visit these memorials, General Wu announced. They will learn what happened when species tried to solve their problems through mass murder. They will learn that such solutions always fail. The memorial on Nexus Prime Station itself was the largest. It stood where President Kim Tae-ho had fallen, a tall crystal spire that projected holographic images of every human who had died in the war. The names scrolled by continuously. Over 8 million people who had been murdered simply for being human. But at the base of the memorial was a different kind of message. It was President Kim Tae-ho's original speech, the one he had been giving when he was assassinated. His words about peace, cooperation, and mutual understanding were preserved for all to see. His vision of peace was not weak, President Choi said, as he stood beside the memorial. It was simply ahead of its time. Perhaps one day the galaxy will be ready for the kind of peace he imagined. Commander Lim Yu-jin, now in charge of the Human Defense Force, explained the new military structure of the galaxy. Human ships patrolled every system, ensuring that no species could build the kind of massive fleets that had once threatened humanity. "We are not conquerors," she explained to the assembled aliens. "We are guardians. We prevent any species from becoming powerful enough to threaten others." This was perhaps the most important change. The galaxy's military balance had been permanently altered. No single species or alliance would ever again be able to threaten genocide against another. Dr. Han Ji-hoon had continued his work on consciousness transfer technology. Now, instead of just linking human minds to ships, he was working on ways to preserve the minds of dying beings from any species. "Death is no longer permanent," he announced to the assembly. "Any being who contributes to galactic peace can have their consciousness preserved. They can continue to exist and contribute to society even after their biological body fails." This technology was offered to all species, but with conditions. Only beings who had demonstrated their commitment to peace and cooperation would be granted digital immortality. As the day's sessions ended, President Choi Min-ho walked to the window that looked out into space. A year ago, this view had shown him the fleets of aliens preparing to destroy humanity. Now it showed human ships, maintaining peace and order throughout the galaxy. Agent Shin Da-mi, now head of interspecies relations, joined him at the window. "Do you think President Kim would approve of what we've become?" she asked. President Choi considered this carefully. He wanted peace, We've given the galaxy peace. He wanted cooperation between species. We've created a system where species must cooperate to survive. He wanted to prevent war. We've made war impossible. But at what cost? Shindumi asked. We've become the galaxy's rulers. We control everything. Someone has to, President Choi replied. The aliens proved that they can't be trusted to govern the Admiral Moon. Sukyung stood on the observation deck of the massive human dreadnought Liberation as it approached the hegemony capital world. Behind her, the largest human fleet ever assembled stretched across space. 5,000 ships armed with technology that could reshape reality itself. Admiral, reported Captain Bei Taewon from the bridge, we're receiving surrender signals from the planetary government. Moon Sukyung was not surprised. In the past 6 months, human forces had liberated every colony that the aliens had captured. But liberation was not enough anymore. President Choi Min-ho had given clear orders. The species that started this war would face complete consequences. Tell them we'll accept their surrender, Admiral Moon said. But only if they hand over High Chancellor Vex and every government official who voted to attack humanity. Back on Earth, President Choi Min-ho was meeting with Ambassador Jang Mi-young, who had been chosen to establish new relationships with alien species after the war ended. Mr. President, Ambassador Jang said, we're receiving requests for mercy from over 40 different worlds. Even species that didn't participate in the attacks are afraid of what we might do to them. President Choi Min-ho looked out the window of his office. A year ago, he had been vice president of a peaceful nation that just wanted to explore the galaxy and make friends. Now he was the leader of the galaxy's most feared military power. Good, he said quietly. Let them be afraid. Fear will prevent them from making the same mistake again. Colonel An Jae-sung, his consciousness now permanently merged with his ship's computer systems, was leading a special mission to rescue human prisoners. The aliens had captured thousands of humans during their initial attacks, and many were still being held on distant worlds. Phoenix Squadron, this is Colonel An. His voice echoed through the communication systems of his neural-linked fighters. We're approaching the prison planet. Intelligence says there are 50,000 human prisoners down there. The rescue was swift and precise. An's fighters disabled the orbital defenses without destroying them, then landed rescue ships to evacuate the prisoners. But what they found shocked everyone. Command, Colonel An reported, the conditions here are worse than we expected. The aliens have been using human prisoners for medical experiments. Many are injured or sick. Dr. Kim Hyun-ju, the lead medical officer on the rescue mission, was horrified by what she saw. They've been trying to understand how our neural enhancement technology works, she reported. They've been cutting into people's brains while they were still alive. This news reached President Choi Min-ho within hours. His response was immediate and terrible. Any species that participated in experimenting on human prisoners will have their entire military dismantled, he announced. Their homeworlds will be occupied by human forces. Their governments will be dissolved. Agent Shindami had spent months infiltrating the highest levels of alien governments. Her final mission was to gather evidence about who had planned the assassination of President Kim Tae-ho. I found the planning documents, she reported to Captain Yoon. The assassination was planned 2 years ago. They were always going to kill our president no matter what he said at the summit. The evidence showed that the aliens had never intended to give peace a chance. They had been preparing for war against humanity long before President Kim Tae-ho arrived at Nexus Prime Station. They made videos celebrating his death before it even happened, Agent Shin continued. This was never about fear of human expansion. This was about destroying us because they enjoyed the idea of wiping out an entire species. This information changed how President Choi Min-ho viewed the war. It had never been about misunderstanding or fear. The aliens had simply wanted to commit genocide for the pleasure of it. Commander Lim Yu-jin, now promoted to admiral, was given command of the punishment fleet. Her job was to hunt down every ship that had participated in the massacre of human civilians. We have a list of 17,000 alien ships that fired on defenseless human colonies, she told her officers. Our job is to find every single one of them and destroy them. The hunt took months, but human technology made it inevitable. Quantum sensors could track any ship across the galaxy. Neural-linked pilots could fight battles in multiple star systems at the same time. Reality-warping weapons could destroy entire fleets instantly. One by one, every ship that had murdered human civilians was found and destroyed. Dr. Kwon In-soo had been working on something even more advanced than quantum weapons. In his laboratory deep underground, he had created technology that could control time itself. "I can slow time around enemy ships," he explained to President Choi Min-ho during a demonstration. "From their perspective, they'll be moving normally, but to the rest of the universe, they'll be frozen in place for centuries." "What would happen to the crews?" President Choi Min-ho asked. "They'd live normal lifespans, but the outside universe would age thousands of years while they experienced a few decades. It's a fate worse than death." President Choi Min-ho decided to save this weapon for the worst war criminals. Vice Admiral Park Jin-woo, the former bodyguard of President Kim Tae-ho, led the mission to capture Overlord Krex. The massive alien leader was hiding in a fortress on a distant moon, protected by the last remnants of his once mighty fleet. "This is for President Kim," Park said as his ship surrounded the fortress. "You murdered a good man who came to you in peace." The battle was brief. Human quantum weapons simply teleported Krex's defending ships into the heart of nearby suns. The alien who had once commanded 10,000 warships was captured by a dozen human soldiers. "You cannot defeat the entire galaxy," Krex roared as they put him in chains. "Other species will rise against you." "Let them try," Park replied. "They'll learn the same lesson you did." Captain Song Hee-young had discovered something troubling during her intelligence missions. "Several neutral species are forming a new alliance," she reported. "They're calling it the Galactic Liberation Front. They claim they want to free the galaxy from human tyranny." President Choi Min-ho was not surprised. "How many species?" 15 so far, but they're recruiting more. They say that humanity has become the very thing we once fought against, a species that destroys others for their own benefit." "Are they right?" Ambassador Jang asked quietly. President Choi Min-ho considered this. Over the past year, humanity had conquered or destroyed dozens of alien civilizations. They had dismantled governments, occupied worlds, and hunted down their enemies without mercy. "No," he said finally. "We didn't start this war. We didn't choose to become conquerors. But when someone tries to wipe out your entire species, you make sure they can never try again." Dr. Lee Bora had been studying the psychological effects of the neural enhancement technology on human pilots. What she found was both amazing and disturbing. "The pilots are becoming something beyond human," she reported. "Their minds work so fast that they have trouble relating to normal people. They think in terms of decades and centuries instead of days and years." Colonel An was an example of this change. When he spoke to regular humans now, he had to slow down his thoughts so they could understand him. He could see solutions to problems that others couldn't even comprehend. "Is this evolution?" Dr. Lee wondered. "Or are we creating a new species?" The war was ending, but its effects would last forever. Humanity had faced extinction and survived by becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. They had developed technology that could control the fundamental forces of reality. They had created soldiers who thought faster than computers and could fight entire fleets by themselves. But most importantly, they had learned what they were capable of when their survival was threatened. General Woo Hyun-sik stood in the ruins of the Silthari homeworld, where the species that had assassinated President Kim Tae-ho once lived. Now it was empty, except for automated systems that would warn any visitors about what happened there. "Let this be a lesson to the galaxy," he said as he placed a memorial stone in the rubble. "This is what happens to species that try to destroy humanity." The stone's inscription was simple. "Here lived the Silthari, who thought they could murder our leader and escape justice. They were wrong." Across the galaxy, similar memorials marked the worlds of species that had participated in the attempted genocide. Some worlds were empty now. Others were occupied by human forces. All served as reminders of what happened when someone tried to wipe out the human race. The age of humanity had begun. 3 months after the first alien attack, humanity had become something the galaxy had never seen before. Dr. Lee Bora stood in her laboratory, watching as dozens of human volunteers underwent the Prometheus transformation. What had started as a desperate experiment was now humanity's greatest advantage. The neural integration is now 90% successful, she reported to President Choi Min-ho during their weekly meeting. We have over 2,000 pilots who can link directly with their ships. President Choi Min-ho nodded. The past months had changed him. Where once he had been a politician who sought compromise, now he was a war leader who accepted only victory. What about the new technologies? He asked. Dr. Lee pulled up holographic displays showing their latest developments. The quantum manipulation systems are beyond anything we imagined. Our engineers can now bend space and time around enemy ships. We can make their weapons miss us, or trap them in bubbles where time moves slowly. Colonel An Jae-sung had become the most famous pilot in human space. His brain was now permanently connected to his fighter ship, the Phoenix. He could think at computer speeds and react faster than any alien pilot. Colonel An's squadron destroyed an entire alien battle group yesterday, Dr. Lee continued. 50 enemy ships against 5 human fighters. All alien ships were destroyed. We lost nothing. But the real change in humanity was deeper than just technology. When faced with extinction, humans had stopped thinking like individuals and started thinking like a single organism focused on survival. Captain Song Hee-young discovered this during a spy mission to an alien world. Her stealth ship had landed on Vorthak Prime, the home planet of Overlord Krex's empire. What I saw there will stay with me forever, she reported to Admiral Kang. The Vorthak people are terrified of us now. They're building underground shelters and putting their military on full alert. But it's too late. Admiral Kang, now promoted to Supreme Fleet Commander, was planning something that would have been unthinkable before the war. Instead of just defending human space, they were going to attack the aliens on their homeworlds. The enemy showed no mercy to our civilians, he said during a meeting with his senior officers. They tried to commit genocide against our entire species. Now they will face the consequences. Vice Admiral Seo Junho commanded the first attack fleet. His ships were equipped with the new quantum weapons and manned by neural-linked pilots. Where alien fleets had once seemed invincible, they now fled at the first sign of human ships. Sir, reported Commander Kim Woo-jin from the bridge of the battleship Vengeance, we've arrived at the Kantari system. The enemy has 40 ships defending their home world. Only 40? Admiral Seo laughed grimly. They used to send thousands to attack our colonies. Colonel An, your squadron will handle the enemy fleet. The rest of us will focus on their orbital weapons. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. Colonel An's neural-linked fighters moved through space like deadly dancers, destroying enemy ships faster than the aliens could react. The human battleships used quantum weapons to erase the planetary defenses from existence. But Admiral Seo didn't stop there. Following President Choi Min-ho's orders, he broadcast a message to the planet below. People of Kantari Prime, his voice echoed across their world. Your leaders chose to join an attempt to destroy humanity. Your fleets participated in the murder of millions of innocent humans. But we are not like you. Surrender now, and your civilians will be spared. Your military will be disbanded, and your world will become a protected zone under human authority. The Kantari government surrendered within 6 hours. The same scene played out across the galaxy. Human fleets, smaller in number but vastly superior in capability, attacked the homeworlds of every species that had participated in the attempted genocide. Agent Shin Demi had infiltrated the command center of the hegemony of Zephyria. Her mission was to gather intelligence, but what she found changed everything. President Choi, she reported through encrypted communication, I've discovered something important. Only 3 species actually planned the attack on humanity. The Vorthak Empire, the hegemony of Zephyria, and the Silthuri Collective. The other 9 species were threatened into joining. This information reached President Choi Min-ho as he was planning the next phase of the war. It gave him an idea that would divide the enemy alliance completely. Captain Yoon, he said to his intelligence chief, I want you to contact the leaders of the 9 coerced species. Tell them that humanity is willing to forgive their participation if they help us destroy the 3 species that started this war. The response was immediate. One by one, the species that had been forced to attack humanity switched sides. They provided information about enemy positions, safe passage for human fleets, and even military support. Within 6 months, the galactic balance of power had completely reversed. The mighty alien alliance that had once fielded 10,000 ships was reduced to the fleets of just 3 species. And those 3 species were learning that they had made a terrible mistake. Dr. Park Se-jin, working with salvaged alien technology, made a discovery that shocked everyone. The assassination weapon that killed President Kim Tae-ho wasn't just advanced technology, she reported. It was based on human quantum research that was stolen from us 5 years ago. President Choi Min-ho felt his anger grow even deeper. They've been planning this for years. More than that, Dr. Park continued. They've been stealing our technology and using it against us. Every advancement we shared with the galactic community was copied and weaponized. This revelation changed everything. Humanity had tried to be generous, sharing their discoveries with other species. In return, those discoveries had been turned into weapons meant to destroy them. General Woo Hyun-sik was placed in charge of the final phase of military operations. His target was the Silthari homeworld, where the assassins who had killed President Kim Tae-ho were hiding. The Silthari think they're safe because their world is hidden in a nebula that blocks most sensors, General Woo explained to his staff. But our quantum sensors can see through their deceptions. The attack on the Silthari homeworld was swift and devastating. Human ships appeared out of quantum space directly above their cities. The aliens who had prided themselves on being invisible were caught completely by surprise. This is General Woo of the Human Liberation Force, he broadcast to the planet below. You are the species that murdered our president. You began this war by killing an innocent man who came in peace. Surrender now or face complete destruction. The Silthari refused to surrender. They activated every weapon they had, including planet-based cannons that could destroy entire fleets. But human quantum shields simply absorbed the energy and redirected it back at the attackers. Within hours, the most feared assassins in the galaxy were defeated by a species they had dismissed as weak and primitive. Commander Yoon Hee-jin, now promoted to admiral, stood on the bridge of her flagship as they approached Vorthak Prime, the heart of Overlord Krex's empire. Sir, reported her tactical officer, the enemy has assembled their remaining fleet to defend their home world. 3,000 ships. 3,000, Admiral Yoon mused. They started this war with 10,000, now look at them. The final battle was not even close. Human ships, crewed by neural-linked pilots and armed with reality-bending weapons, cut through the alien fleet like it was made of paper. Overlord Krex's mighty battleship, once the terror of a dozen worlds, was simply erased from existence by a quantum weapon. As the last alien ships fled in defeat, President Choi Min-ho received a communication from High Chancellor Vex of the hegemony of Zephyria. Humans, Vex's cold voice said, we underestimated your species. We are prepared to discuss terms of surrender. President Choi Min-ho's response was broadcast across the galaxy. You wanted to destroy us because you feared we were becoming too powerful, he said. You were right to be afraid, but not for the reasons you thought. You feared our technology and our expansion. You should have feared what we become when someone tries to wipe us out. The war was essentially over. In less than a year, humanity had gone from nearly extinct to the dominant military power in the galaxy. But President Choi Min-ho knew that winning the war was only the beginning. Now they had to decide what to do with their victory. The alien armada arrived like a storm made of metal and fire. Commander Lim Yu-jin watched from the bridge of her destroyer, the HSS Defiance, as thousands of enemy ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. The colony, world below, had 2 million human settlers who were now trapped. My God, whispered her weapons officer, Ensign Park Dong-min. There are so many of them. Commander Lim had been fighting in space for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like this. The alien fleet stretched across the darkness like a metal ocean. Ships from 12 different species moved together in perfect formation. Some were as big as cities. Others moved so fast they were just streaks of light. "All human ships, this is Fleet Command," came the voice of Admiral Kang over the communication system. "We are outnumbered 30 to 1. Fight smart, fight hard, and make every shot count." The first attack came without warning. Beams of energy shot across space from the alien ships. 3 human destroyers exploded instantly, their crews dead before they knew what hit them. "Return fire," Commander Lim shouted. "Target their biggest ships." The HSS Defiance fired its main cannons at a massive Vorthak battleship. The shots hit the enemy's shields and made them glow, but didn't break through. "Commander," said her sensor. "Officer, the enemy shields are too strong, our weapons can't get through." More human ships died around them. Commander Lim watched the destroyer HSS Seoul get hit by 5 enemy beams at once. It broke apart like a toy, pieces of metal spinning into the darkness. "All ships, retreat to defensive positions around the planet," Admiral Kang ordered. "We can't fight them in open space." But as the human fleet pulled back, the aliens did something horrible. Instead of following them, the alien ships began firing on the planet below. Huge beams of energy hit the surface, turning entire cities into ash and glass. Commander Lim watched in horror as the colony's capital city disappeared in a flash of light. 200,000 people died in an instant. "Those monsters," Ensign Park whispered. "They're killing civilians." The same thing was happening at colonies across human space. The aliens weren't just fighting the human military, they were destroying entire worlds. Men, women, children, everyone was being murdered from orbit. Back on Earth, President Choi Min-ho received reports that made his heart break. New Seoul, gone. The mining colony at Ross 128, destroyed. The research station at WI Wolf 359 turned to dust. "How many people have we lost?" he asked Captain Yoon. 8 million so far," she replied quietly. "And the attacks are continuing." In the underground research facility in Seoul, Dr. Oh Sang-mi was working desperately to finish the quantum weapons. She was a small woman with tired eyes, but her mind was one of the most brilliant on Earth. "How much longer?" asked engineer Nam Ki-young as he helped her connect power cables to the new weapon systems. 6 hours, maybe 7, Dr. Oh replied. "But we need to test them first." "There's no time for tests," Nam said. "Our people are dying up there." Dr. Oh understood. Every minute they spent in the laboratory, thousands of humans were being killed. In space. But if the weapons didn't work, even more would die. Meanwhile, Dr. Han Ji-hoon was preparing the first test of the Prometheus system. 50 volunteer pilots had agreed to have their brains connected to computer systems, even though it might kill them. Colonel An Jae-sung was one of the volunteers. He was 35 years old and had been flying fighters since he was 20. He had a wife and 2 children on Earth. "Are you sure about this, Colonel?" Dr. Han asked as they prepared the neural connection equipment. "Doctor," Colonel An replied, "my family is on this planet. If this gives us a chance to save them, I'll take any risk." The process took 2 hours. Tiny wires were connected to Colonel An's brain while he was unconscious. When he woke up, he felt different. Information flowed through his mind faster than ever before. He could see data from his ship's sensors as clearly as he could see with his own eyes. "How do you feel?" Dr. Han asked. "Like I'm part of the ship," Colonel An said. "I can feel the engines. I can sense the weapon systems. It's incredible." But there was no time to celebrate. Reports came in that the alien fleet was moving toward Earth itself. They would arrive in 12 hours. President Choi Min-ho made a decision that would change everything. Instead of waiting for the aliens to attack Earth, he would send every ship they had to meet the enemy in space. "Sir," Admiral Kang protested, "that leaves Earth completely defenseless." "If we lose this battle, Earth is doomed anyway," Choi Min-ho replied. "Better to fight them away from our home world." The human fleet gathered at the edge of the solar system. 800 ships against 10,000. It should have been hopeless, but the humans had advantages the aliens didn't know about. Colonel An and the other neural-linked pilots could react faster than any alien. Their ships moved like they were alive, dancing between enemy shots. Commander Lim watched in amazement as Colonel An's fighter twisted through space, destroying alien ships that were 10 times bigger than his own craft. How is he doing that? Ensign Park asked. He's not flying the ship anymore, Commander Lim realized. He is the ship. The quantum weapons that Dr. O had built were even more surprising. When Engineer Nam fired the first test shot, it tore a hole in space itself. An enemy battleship simply disappeared, not destroyed but erased from existence. My God, Nam whispered. What have we created? The battle was still desperate. Even with their new weapons, the humans were badly outnumbered. Ships died on both sides, but more human ships were lost. Then something unexpected happened. Captain Mai, Song Hee-young of the stealth ship Shadow Walker, was hiding near the enemy fleet when she noticed something important. Command, this is Song, she reported. The enemy fleet is not as united as we thought. I'm seeing ships from different species shooting at each other. President Choi Min-ho received this report in the command center deep under Earth's surface. What do you mean? Some of the alien species don't want to be here, Captain Song explained. I think they were forced to join this attack. They're looking for a chance to escape. This gave President Choi Min-ho an idea. Captain Yoon, do we have a way to communicate with individual alien ships? Yes, sir, but why? Because not all of our enemies chose to be our enemies. President Choi Min-ho had a message broadcast to the alien fleet, but only to ships from species that had seemed friendly to humans before. To all aliens who were forced into this war against their will, his voice said, humanity offers you a choice. Leave this battle now and we will consider you neutral. Stay and fight us and you will be treated as enemies. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, ships began to break away from the alien fleet. First one, then 10, then hundreds. Species that had been pressured into joining the attack decided they didn't want to destroy humanity after all. The remaining alien fleet was still much larger than the human force, but it was no longer impossible to fight. Dr. Kwon In-soo, working in his laboratory on Earth, achieved the breakthrough they needed. He found a way to make the quantum weapons much more powerful. I can create a weapon that will destroy an entire enemy formation, he told President Choi Min-ho. But it will take all the power from our defense grid. Do it, the president ordered. The new weapon fired once, creating a tear in space that swallowed 300 alien ships in an instant. The enemy fleet, seeing this display of power, finally began to retreat. But President Choi Min-ho knew this was just the beginning. The aliens had started this war by murdering President Kim Tae-ho. They had killed millions of innocent humans. They had tried to destroy his entire species. Admiral Kang, he said, prepare our ships to pursue the enemy. Sir, shouldn't we let them retreat? President Choi Min-ho's eyes were hard. They wanted to wipe us out completely. They showed no mercy to our civilians. Now they'll learn what happens when you try to destroy humanity and fail. The tide of war had turned. The aliens had expected an easy victory against a weak, new species. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. Vice President Choi Min-ho stood in the Oval Office, staring at the empty chair where Kim Tae-ho used to sit. The news of the president's death had reached Earth 6 hours ago, and the planet was in shock. People were crying in the streets. Flags hung at half-mast everywhere. Choi Min-ho was a different kind of man than Kim Tae-ho. Where the former president had been gentle and hopeful, Choi was practical and tough. He had been a general before becoming vice president, and he understood that sometimes peace could only be kept through strength. Sir, said his assistant, walking into the room. Captain Yoon is here to see you. Captain Yoon Hye-jin entered the office. She was the head of Earth's Stellar Intelligence Division, the organization that gathered information about what was happening in other parts of the galaxy. She was young for such an important job, but her mind was sharp and she never missed important details. Mr. President, she said, saluting. I have urgent information. Choi Min-ho had not gotten used to being called president yet. Tell me everything, Captain. Yoon opened her tablet and showed him images from space. These pictures were taken by our spy satellites in the last 12 hours. Look at this. The images showed massive fleets of alien warships gathering at the edge of human space. There were ships from many different species, some that humans had never seen before. "How many ships?" Choi Min-ho asked. "Over 10,000, Captain Yoon replied. "And more are arriving every hour." Choi Min-ho felt his blood turn cold. Earth's entire space fleet had only 800 ships. "Which species are involved?" "That's the worst part," Captain Yoon said, switching to another image. "It's not just the Vorthak Empire and the hegemony of Zephyria. Species that we thought were our friends are joining them. The Kentari Republic sent 50 ships. The Aldarian Federation sent 200. Even the peaceful Morlocks have sent their entire fleet." "Why would they do this?" Choi Min-ho asked. "We've never attacked any of them." Captain Yoon shook her head. "Our sources say they're scared of us. They think that humans are growing too fast and becoming too powerful. The assassination of President Kim was just the beginning. They want to destroy us completely before we become too strong to stop." At that moment, Admiral Kang Do-hyun entered the room. He was the commander of Earth's Space Defense Force, a man with gray hair and scars on his face from old battles. He looked very serious. "Mr. President," Admiral Kang said, "I just received a message from the alien fleet. They're not hiding their intentions anymore." He handed Choi Min-ho a small device. When the new president pressed the button, a holographic image appeared. It showed Overlord Krex of the Vorthak Empire. "Humans," Krex's deep voice said, "you have grown too quickly. You have become too dangerous. Your species must be removed from the galaxy for the safety of all others. You have 24 hours to surrender all your colonies and return to your home planet. If you do not, we will destroy every human world we find. This is your only warning." The message ended. The room was silent for a long moment. "How long would it take to evacuate our colonies?" Choi Min-ho asked. "Impossible," Admiral Kang replied. "We have over 50 million humans living on 20 different worlds. Even if we started right now, it would take months to move them all." Captain Yoon spoke up. "Sir, I don't think evacuation is what they want. Our intelligence suggests they plan to kill all humans, including those on Earth. They see our entire species as a threat." Choi Min-ho walked to the window. Outside, he could see people going about their daily lives, not knowing that alien fleets were preparing to destroy them. Children were playing in parks. Families were having dinner together. All of this could be gone soon. His communication device beeped. It was Governor Bae Soo-jin from the colony world of New Seoul. "Mr. President," Governor Bae's voice was filled with worry. "We have alien scout ships in our system. They're scanning our defenses. What should we do?" "Begin evacuation procedures," Choi Min-ho said. "Get as many people as you can to the underground shelters." "Sir, we have 3 million people here. The shelters can only hold 500,000. Choi Min-ho closed his eyes. "Do your best, Governor. Help is coming." But he wasn't sure that was true. After ending the call, Choi Min-ho turned to his military advisors. "What are our chances in a fight?" Admiral Kang was honest. "Against 10,000 ships? Very small. Our technology is good, but numbers matter in space battles. We might win some fights, but we can't win the war." "Unless," Captain Yoon said quietly. "Unless what?" Choi Min-ho asked. "There are some projects that President Kim decided not to use because they were too dangerous. Dr. Han Ji-hoon has been working on weapons that could change everything." Admiral Kang frowned. "What kind of weapons?" Captain Yoon looked uncomfortable. "The kind that could destroy entire star systems. President Kim thought they were too dangerous to build." "Where is Dr. Han?" Choi Min-ho asked. "In the underground research facility in Seoul. He's been studying the assassin's weapon. The Silthari plasma rifle that killed President Kim had technology that shouldn't exist yet." Choi Min-ho made his decision. "Get me Dr. Han on the communication system, and call an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. If these aliens want a war, we'll give them one." An hour later, Dr. Han Ji-hoon appeared on the main screen in the Situation Room. He was a thin man with thick glasses and messy hair. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Dr. Han," Choi Min-ho said, I need to know about the secret weapons projects. Dr. Han looked around nervously. Sir, President Kim ordered me to stop working on those projects. He said they were too dangerous. President Kim is dead, Choi Min-ho said quietly. And in 18 hours, alien fleets will begin attacking our colonies. I need every weapon we have. Dr. Han nodded slowly. The main project is called Prometheus. We've been working on combining human brains with computer systems. A pilot connected to such a system could think and react faster than any alien. Their ships would move like they were alive. How long would it take to build these systems? Admiral Kang asked. The prototypes are already built, Dr. Han replied. We just never tested them on humans because it might be dangerous. How dangerous? Choi Min-ho asked. The pilot's brain might be damaged, or they might not be able to disconnect from the ship. But if it works, one human pilot could fight 10 alien ships and win. Captain Yoon spoke up. Sir, there's something else. The weapon that killed President Kim uses quantum technology that we've never seen before. If we can figure out how it works, we might be able to build similar weapons. Choi Min-ho looked around the room at his advisors. These were good people who wanted to protect humanity, but they were facing an enemy that outnumbered them 10-1. How many volunteers would we need for the first test? He asked Dr. Han. Maybe 50 pilots for the neural connection systems, and a few hundred scientists to work on the quantum weapons. And if this doesn't work, Dr. Han was honest, then humanity ends in the next few days. Choi Min-ho stood up. Dr. Han, begin the Prometheus project immediately. Captain Yoon, I want every piece of information we have about the alien fleets. Admiral Kang, prepare our regular forces for battle, but don't engage until the new weapons are ready. He paused and looked at each of them. 18 hours ago, they murdered our president in front of the entire galaxy. They thought this would make us afraid. Instead, they've made a terrible mistake. They don't understand what humans become when we're fighting for our survival. As his advisors left to carry out their orders, Choi Min-ho remained alone in the Situation Room. He looked at the star maps showing the positions of the alien fleets. They were close now, and getting closer every hour. Tomorrow the war would begin. But tonight, humanity was preparing to show the galaxy something it had never seen before. The massive space station hung in the darkness like a giant metal flower. Its silver arms stretched out in all directions, each one bigger than Earth's largest cities. This was Nexus Prime Station, where the most important beings in the galaxy came to meet and talk. President Kim Tae-ho looked out the window of his transport ship as they got closer to the station. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. For 40 years he had been a soldier, fighting in Earth's wars. Now he was Earth's leader, and he wanted peace more than anything else. Sir, we will arrive in 10 minutes, said Commander Park. Jin Woo. Park was the head of the president's security team. He was younger than Kim Tae-ho, but his face looked serious all the time. He wore a black uniform with no decorations except for his rank. Thank you, Commander, Kim Tae-ho said. He turned to the woman sitting next to him. Dr. Lee, are you ready for this? Dr. Lee So-min nodded. She was Earth's top expert on alien life forms. Her job was to help the president understand the other species they would meet. She had short black hair and wore simple clothes, but her mind was one of the sharpest on Earth. The aliens are worried about us, she said quietly. Humans have grown very fast in the last 50 years. We have built cities on 20 planets. Our technology gets better every day. Some alien species think we are dangerous. Kim Tae-ho sighed. We just want to live in peace. Why can't they understand that? The transport ship landed in the station's main bay. As they walked out, Kim Tae-ho saw the other alien leaders for the first time. They were strange and wonderful. Some looked like giant insects. Others had skin like metal. A few had tentacles instead of arms. But two groups caught Dr. Lee's attention right away. The first was led by Overlord Krex of the Vorthak Empire. Krex was huge with red skin and 4 arms. His species had conquered 12 planets in the last 100 years. They believed that only the strongest should survive. The second group belonged to the hegemony of Zephyria. Their leader was High Chancellor Vex. Vex looked almost human, but his eyes were completely black. His people were known for being very smart but also very cold. They made decisions based only on logic, never on feelings. "Those two groups worry me," Dr. Lee whispered to Commander Park as they walked through the station's halls. "Why?" Park asked. "They have been talking to each other a lot lately. Our spies say they don't like how fast humans are growing." The main meeting room was enormous. It had seats for representatives from over 100 different worlds. Kim Tae-ho's seat was near the center, which showed that Earth was now considered an important planet. As Kim Tae-ho sat down, he noticed that many aliens were staring at him. Some looked curious, others looked afraid, a few looked angry. The meeting began with a speech from the station's commander, an old alien with blue skin and 3 eyes. He talked about peace and cooperation between all species. Kim Tae-ho listened carefully, but he noticed that Overlord Krex and High Chancellor Vex were not paying attention. Instead, they were looking at their communication devices. Finally, it was Kim Tae-ho's turn to speak. He stood up and walked to the center of the room. All eyes turned to him. The room became completely quiet. "Friends," he began, his voice strong and clear. "I come here today not as a conqueror, but as a neighbor. Humanity has indeed grown quickly, but we have not taken anything from anyone. We have found empty worlds and made them into homes. We have created new technology, but we have shared it with others." Some aliens nodded. Others remained silent. "I know some of you are worried about us," Kim Tae-ho continued. "You think that because we are new to the galaxy, we might be dangerous. But I promise you this. Humanity wants only peace. We want to trade with you, learn from you, and help you when we can." Dr. Lee watched the alien faces carefully. Most seemed to be listening with interest. But Overlord Krex was talking quietly into his communication device. High Chancellor Vex was doing the same. "We are not perfect," Kim Tae-ho said. "We have made mistakes in our past. We have had wars on our own world. But we learned from those mistakes. We learned that fighting only brings pain and death. We learned that working together makes everyone stronger." He paused and looked around the room. "I ask you to give us a chance. Judge us not by your fears, but by our actions. We want to be part of this galactic community. We want to help make the galaxy a better place for all of us." Many aliens began to clap their hands, tentacles, or whatever they used for applause. Kim Tae-ho smiled and began to walk back to his seat. That was when Dr. Lee saw something that made her blood turn cold. In the upper viewing area, she spotted a figure in dark clothes. The figure was small and moved like a shadow. In its hands was something that looked like a weapon. "Commander," she shouted, but it was too late. A bright beam of energy shot across the room. It hit Kim Tae-ho in the chest and he fell to the ground immediately. The smell of burned metal filled the air. Alarms began to sound everywhere. Commander Park and his security team rushed toward the president, but Dr. Lee could see it was too late. Kim Tae-ho's eyes were already closed, his breathing had stopped. "Protect the body," Park shouted to his men. Then he spoke into his communication device. "This is Park Jin-woo. The president is down. I repeat, the president is down. We need immediate medical help and full security lockdown." Dr. Lee looked up toward where the shot had come from, but the assassin was gone. It was as if he had simply disappeared into thin air. Chaos filled the meeting room. Some aliens ran toward the exits. Others stood frozen in shock. Security forces from different species rushed in from all directions, but Dr. Lee noticed something else. Overlord Krex and High Chancellor Vex were not surprised. They were not running or shouting like the others. Instead, they were sitting calmly, in their seats watching everything happen. A station security officer ran up to Commander Park. "We are searching for the assassin," he said, "but he seems to have vanished." "What kind of weapon was used?" Park asked. "It was a Silthari plasma rifle," the officer replied. "Very advanced, very deadly." Dr. Lee's heart sank. The Silthari were known as the best assassins in the galaxy. They could make themselves invisible and move without making any sound. If the Silthari had killed President Kim Tae-ho, it meant someone with a lot of money had paid them to do it, The The medical team confirmed that the president was dead. Dr. Lee realized that this was not just a murder. This was the beginning of something much worse. The assassination had been broadcast to the entire galaxy. Every human on every world would know that their leader had been killed in cold blood. Commander Park organized the security team to take the president's body back to their ship. As they carried the body through the station's halls, Dr. Lee saw alien faces watching them. Some looked sad, others looked guilty. A few looked satisfied. "Commander," Dr. Lee said quietly as they walked, "this wasn't just about killing the president. This was about sending a message." "What kind of message?" Park asked. "That humanity is not welcome in the galaxy. That we should be afraid." Park's jaw tightened. Then they don't know humans very well. As their ship left Nexus Prime Station and headed back toward Earth, Dr. Lee looked back at the massive space station one last time. She knew that everything had changed. The age of peace was over. The question now was what would come next. On Earth, billions of humans would soon learn that their leader had been murdered in front of the entire galaxy. And Dr. Lee suspected that this assassination was only the beginning of something much more terrible.